Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us this evening and giving up your time for this really important conversation, discussion, and hopefully a way to move us forwards. Just listening to everybody here and sort of reflecting from my own reflections, I sit here with a heavy heart. An optimistic one, but nonetheless really heavy. I joined policing in 1991 and we were having those conversations then. And here we are now in 2024, just about to go into 2025, and we're having the same conversations. And so that's the bit of me that's still heavy, because change doesn't happen in isolation, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens because people want it to change, and it happens from the people, positions of power. And I think when I think about, we've talked about and heard about the Casey Review today and things like that, and I think, well, the Casey Review, whilst it acknowledged a lot of things, it acknowledged institutional racism, discrimination, misogyny, poor leadership, all of those things, but they were things that Black and Asian officers, communities have been saying for years. But part of the tragedy is that it gained traction and momentum because it was somebody that didn't look like us saying it, but we've been saying it for years. And so there is one of the sort of sad realities of it. And I think the thing with the Casey Review, whilst it said all of the things that we know about, the things that we worry about, struggle with, etc., is, for me, it really came from a white lens. It was very much from that, kind of white perspective, as opposed to looking at it from what those challenges may be for people of colour. And I think one of the things in terms of that, and what I mean by that, and where I think there were some missed opportunities in the Casey Review, was to look at how race interplays with misogyny, with poor leadership, and with all of those other things that came up in that. How does racialised misogyny actually play out and look in policing, in organisations? And I think there was also something about the lack of data and that desegregation of data in terms of actually who are we talking about? Because when we talk about Black, Asian, people of colour and the challenges that they have, it's different. It's far more, the expectations on those officers is far more, and on police staff as well. And we talk a lot about officers, but we mustn't forget about police staff who go through their challenges. And so when we think about it, I think there was that missed opportunity to actually break the data down and tell people who is actually experiencing what, when, where, and how. And so I think they were some of the challenges, some of the missed opportunities. And also the intersectionality and how those play out in terms of not just being a person of colour, but the fact that you have, children, childcare responsibilities, and all of those other things that intersect, the fact that you might be neurodivergent, etc. And those kind of things weren't particularly covered in there or brought out in there. And so when we think about how do we move this forward, because as I say, this conversation has been going on, way before even I joined policing, there were challenges and issues. But I can only talk about my time with 31 years in, and the conversations were still the same. And we've heard about Macpherson and the Stephen Lawrence inquiry and what came out of that. And I think one of the key things is, because I say you can't do this on your own, it can't be done just with policing. And this is bigger than a policing issue anyway, it's a societal issue. This isn't just about policing. And as that inquiry brought out, it talked about teaching, education, health, etc. And you every day you hear about something where there's disproportionate outcomes for people of colour. And so it's about, there needs to be more join up in terms of how we tackle this issue. But I think also when we look at the Police Reform Act, which came in the early 2000s, and that, it brought in the IOPC, which was supposed to be about bringing that accountability for police leaders. It was supposed to be bringing in that trust, that confidence for communities. But actually, for me, that didn't go far enough, and it hasn't gone far enough. And so, whether it's the IOPC or some other body or what have you, but there needs to be something about being able to investigate, being able to look at systemic barriers, challenges, the systemic, problems that we have within policing. I think there's also the issue around the Equalities Act. We've got 9 protected characteristics, race being one of them. And again, one of the challenges is it has to be about everything. And I think even the fact that it's a Equalities Act when all things aren't equal creates an issue in of itself. And so there's something about race has to stand alone. We've been in this situation for years, and one of the things that we cannot seem to tackle and change in policing is the race issue. And when you think about it, when I joined, and I don't know this 100%, but I don't remember there being a female chief constable, anywhere in the country. I don't remember that as I'm not saying 100% fact, but I don't remember that. I can remember when there was a big to-do about, when females were being promoted and were becoming chief constables. We're now at a stage where we're 50% female chief constables, but we've still only had one black chief constable, and that was Mike Fuller in Kent. And so there's something about women. I'm not saying there aren't women's issues, and this is again where that intersectionality, where that desegregation of data comes in, to look at actually who is being disadvantaged and where is the disadvantage, because they aren't the same. And I think there's something, and Nusrit talked about it, the leadership within policing, because I think sometimes incompetence is, kind of badged, or discrimination, racism can be badged as incompetence, and that's not to say that they aren't there. And also I think there is something about prejudice badged as authority, in that it's very easy to use the systems and processes that are there, but they're hidden behind, racism, discrimination and prejudice. So there's something more that needs to be done, and I think there needs to be a legal framework in terms of that. And also there needs to be a legal definition for racism, because then that will make it accountable, it will make it, and it will be able to hold chief constables, etc., to account. But at the moment there is no actual definition, other than what's in the dictionary, for racism. And therefore it makes it very difficult to pinpoint, which then is why it becomes about, well, maybe it's a perception, maybe it's just a view, because actually what is it that we're talking about? And it's so easy to be disguised as so many other things. And that's what makes it difficult, and that's what makes the challenge. So I think it's great that we're sitting here in the House of Commons, where our laws and everything are made and debated and discussed, because actually for me that's what this is about. It's about getting that legal framework behind this and making race be front and centre, and not just a part of and another thing to do, but actually making it a main focus and standing out. Thank you.